my word, I've married a gay. I've married a gay.
The Cosby Show was recorded in front of a camera.
Hello, lovelies. While we're waiting for the final official whatever it is thing to report to drop about the corruption and so on in the EU referendum, because believe me, my dander is up about that, let's address something from yesterday that's come up in private comments to me and public comments on that video. I made a throwaway comment about wishing that there was a straight Pride month in a similar way to the way that we have LGBT month. And it was just a throwaway comment. I didn't go into any details, but it seems to have upset some people. So let me expand on the whole point, even though it wasn't the point of the video really at all, and tell you kind of more what I mean. Now, I don't think the idea of a straight Pride Month has the same connotations that, say, a white Pride Month would. And I do think that celebrating an identity that you have no control over is pretty fucking retarded anyway, whether it be race or gender or sexuality or whatever. But sex isn't just who you are, it's what you do. It influences many things about our world, how we act and react to one another, and there's all kinds of things around it. And sexual expression is important in arts and literature and everything else. So keep that in mind as we go forward.
No, you.
Hi, honey, I'm homo.
So before we get into why maybe not even a straight or heterosexual pride, but just a more general sexual pride day might be a good idea, and why I feel wistful and wish there was such a thing, we should probably establish what pride was and what pride is, so that we have a common ground, common understanding moving forward. Now, it originally was rooted more in a kind of protest culture, and like the reclamation of the word queer, which used to be a pejorative, the idea of pride is that it's the opposite of shame. Perhaps an unfortunate choice of word, given the Judeo-Christian kind of atmosphere and culture in which we lived more in the past, less today, because pride is, after all, a sin in the eyes of many. But still, the point is taken. Here was something you were being shamed for, but it's something to be proud of. I personally wouldn't consider it either, for reasons I went over earlier, but the point of it is understood. To take something that people were being horrible to you about, to stage a mass gathering and to be out and proud and loud about who you are. That's what it was. These days it's something a bit different, at least not everywhere, but in like the UK, the US, other civilized countries, shall we say. I mean, the chant used to be, "We're here, we're queer, get used to it," to which the reaction is now, "Yes you are, so," and we did. So in that context, the more accepting and open context in which we live now, pride is less this protest and commemoration and so on, and it's more of an unconventional sexuality Mardi Gras, more so than Mardi Gras even is anymore, really. It's a celebration, it's a carnival atmosphere in most of these instances. That original meaning, while it was important, no longer really exists, and what we have far more now is just a broad and open celebration of unconventional sexuality, of sexuality that is not the norm, which isn't me passing judgment, it's just using language correctly. Whatever the majority of people do, that's the norm. Yeah? Okay. Great. Hopefully we're on the same page. That's what pride was, That's what pride is, how the context has changed, why it exists as it did and as it does. All good? Okay. Stick with me. Here comes the science bit.
We just been to a Barbra Streisand concert.
I am a woman in love.
Please, my gay dad. I'm trying to do my math homework for next semester.
Okay, not necessarily the science bit, but the political and social science bit. But these are facts, if you like. The Lady Chatterley obscenity trial was only in 1959. Hardcore pornography was illegal in the UK up until the 90s and remained illegal on broadcast or satellite television, even to today, because it needs to pass the BBFC. Yeah, it was effectively illegal right up until the 1990s when the internet made it all redundant, and now they're trying to push that genie back into the bottle. Yeah, these are just a couple of examples, but if we look elsewhere today, we have bikini models being chased off our billboards. We have zoning problems and deliberate obstacles put in the way of strip clubs being put up. Sex workers are under an immense amount of pressure, much of that pressure now being applied via their punters, making their lives much more unsafe as people try to bring in the failed Nordic model, or they conflate legitimate consenting sex work with sex trafficking. We've got the extreme porn ban and the more general porn ban coming in, where you're going to have to be buying a porn pass from your corner shop to log on to adult sites on the internet if you live in the UK at least. And there are problems elsewhere as well. In this country, I expect it's not going to be too long before a policeman is stationed in front of every urinal to make sure that you don't shake more than twice, because anything more than 2 shakes counts as a wank, and then you'll have to pay your porn fee. The point is, I think, that conventional sexuality, that's heterosexual, and unconventional heterosexuality is under a great deal of pressure, has its own martyrs. There's shame around it just as much as there is about anything else. Certainly these days I think it's comparable. And while the LGBT community has been gaining ground, expressions of heterosexuality have been losing ground constantly. We live in an age of new Puritanism, and it comes as much from the left as from the right, and so people who enjoy sexual expression are caught in between the sort of old school moral arbiters and the new school moral arbiters. One side's telling you it's against God and family and everything else, and the other side is telling you it's exploitative and so on, and ignoring the voices of people who do it, who say that no, I'm not being exploited. Yeah, hopefully you can see what I'm getting at here, that a kind of protest and celebration, in the same way that pride was and pride is, that there's a need for something like that for heterosexuality, or, if you prefer, for sexuality in general, in all its myriad, mildly disturbing and terribly exciting forms.
We're having an orgy!
Now look, I understand some of your misgivings, even though I don't think this has the same implication that a white Pride Month or a white History Month would have. But I understand. There are conservative columnists in the US and so on. I won't dignify him by giving his name out. People might go and look at his article and read it, which is probably what he wants. But there are conservatives who would like a straight Pride Day, month, whatever. But what they have in mind is celebrating the family, the binary monogamous family, and straight-laced and repressed, and we have no desire to parade our kinks out in public. That's not what I have in mind at all. I have in mind a bacchanalian carnival of carnality. That's what I have in mind. I have in mind stripper floats. and people dancing and gyrating in the streets, and free porn day, things like that. That's what I have in mind. A celebration of how we all, after all, got here, of something enjoyable and wonderful that's such an important and big part of our lives, but which is being repressed and pushed down and chased out. And I want to stand out and say fuck you to the people who want to control our sexuality, whatever kind it might be. So all I was expressing was a wistfulness and a wish and a desire that heterosexual sexuality doesn't get a pass to be celebrated in such a big, demonstrative, powerful and public way, to the way that in this day and age queer sexuality does. Hopefully that clarifies things. I am not at all on the side of the 1950s dad. Little Johnny needs a wank. Better get the Playboys in.
Are you here for the orgy?
Do you like water sports? How big is your dick? Cindy, who are these fags?
Oh, don't mind them. They're just my gay dads.
Your dad's a gay? What are you, a lesbian?